Good evening. Welcome to episode 6 of the Oil Hour. If you're watching this live or the recording, you'll see we have a new logo down there in the bottom left. Pretty simple, but better than nothing. And so that was done by Breakfast Supply Company out of Arizona. So thanks to them. As usual, I've got Leo with me tonight. Leo, how does it feel to be number one in the league?
It's been a long time since I've been in that spot. So it feels pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I actually come into tonight with a heavy heart, and not just because I'm 2-4, but my dog died today.
That sucks. I saw that on Facebook just a second ago.
Yeah. He was named Battle because he's my little battle buddy. And I got him after the 2003 activation. I went and got him from a breeder in Dibble. And it was a bunch of puppies. He was a beagle. And there's all these puppies at my feet. And he came like barrel-assing around the corner, like barked at all the other puppies, ran them off, and then started like chewing on my pant leg. And I was like, well, this guy just wants it more, I got to take him. And then, he was my buddy for 12 years, and he's got dog cancer, or he did have dog cancer. So drinking a few for battle tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. We lost our family dog about a year and a half ago, so it was pretty unexpected, and so I know how you're feeling.
Yeah, but the show must go on. We might have some other guests. Duffy has real life getting in the way in the form of traveling to Chicago for work. He might join us from his hotel room. Rose said he's in class, so he can't join, but he can watch. I don't know how that works. And we might have some others. But since it's just you and me again, and we are two of the original in the NFC, we'll just jump into our conference. So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Leo's Norman Nobodies are number one in the league. And they're 5-1. No other team has 5 victories yet in the NFC. So congrats to you. And that was a real nail biter this week.
You're telling me. It was going into it, I immediately knew I was going to be conflicted. Obviously, Sam Bradford being a Sooner legend and him throwing to the wide receiver that I had, Jordan Matthews, it was, I was like, well, hey, maybe he can throw a quick touchdown, an interception, and then go out with like leg cramps for the rest of the game. But luckily, Jordan Matthews was able to snag enough points, and Bradford was, I feel bad as a fan, but happy as a player that he threw, 3 interceptions, and they were able to just run the ball the majority of the fourth quarter. So that.
And so you were going against Yancey Baldwin, and
yeah.
Weren't y'all? I want to say you were separated by like 1/10 of a point going into that game.
For some reason, I want to say it was like 5 points.
I know at some point I checked and you were up by 0.1.
Yeah. Well, there was at one point we were exactly tied.
And that's on Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, Yancey's my buddy, but at 2-4, I need everyone ahead of me to lose. And so I'd rather, you and Rogers, I guess, go 12-1 and 11-2 and just, leave everybody else in your wake give everybody a loss to help me out. So I was glad you pulled it out. Bruges was not able to. He went up against Finch, who's now won 4 straight. I guess he'll quit bitching now. The Hippies fell to 3-3. They lost to Schmidt, and so Schmidt is now 3-3. Schmidt's pretty lucky to be 3-3. The Hippies, I think they're probably a little lucky right now too. Henderson is now 4-2, a surprising 4-2. Poor Jessen finally had a great game. His team put up 144 points, but he ran into a buzzsaw in Henderson and lost by almost 20. So he's now at 2-4. For the second straight week, Pyle's Lucky Enough squad had the biggest blowout, and they knocked off your rival, the Whackers. The game I was paying attention to the most was Cobb and Duffy, because Cobb traded Alshon Jeffrey to Finch for Peyton Manning. And Duffy texted me and said I was trying to trade for him for 3 weeks and he wouldn't do it. And then he finally trades him, and it's just for Peyton Manning, who's having a horrible year. So I sent that text to Cobb and said, I don't think you give a shit, so I don't have to answer text messages like this. Cobb talked shit about Duffy's fantasy skills. Duffy got pissed off and talked shit about Cobb's fantasy skills. I was just in the middle, and so then Cobb said when he comes back and gets this victory, he promised he would not show any class. So I don't know what he has planned, but he did beat Duffy by a significant margin, and he says that he's definitely going to let Duffy remember it. So we'll see what happens there.
He's going to get a tattoo.
Well, Cobb is very anti-tattoo, so I doubt that.
That's surprising, being the MMA fighter type.
Yeah, Cobb is he's just kind of different all around.
Yeah, he is. I like it.
Like just about every way. Like if the old Southern Democrats still existed, he'd be one of them.
So the Hangovers sent me a trade earlier this week that I was actually, I saw it on my phone, and I was really excited about it because it included Julio Jones. And I couldn't make it to my computer fast enough. He had already completed that trade with Pyle for Matt Forte. And, of course, I guess he got Martavius Bryant, Danny Woodhead, and Manny Sanders, and I think one other guy.
West.
Yeah. So he had that trade, not that exact one, but a trade put together for me with Julio Jones, and I was going to accept it. But for some reason, every time that I went to check it, it wasn't showing Julio Jones on his roster. And then I come and looked at our recent transactions and saw that he had just done a deal with Pyle's Lucky Enough, and I was kind of like, damn, man, give me a shot to go look at it, Got me all excited. I sent him a message, and I said, I'd take that trade if you wouldn't have already done the thing with Julio Jones.
Yeah, I think he cast a wide net with that one. And, this is classic Duffy in the sense that, he never pulls a Morgan and says, well, it's just not my year, I give up. He always, if his team is 1-5 like it is now, he does some sort of blockbuster trade, tries to, replenish his supplies, change things up. And it worked last year. Last year, I forget what he was sitting at, but nobody thought he would make the playoffs. And then he made a couple of blockbuster trades, gave up some big names, got some big names, and ended up going on a run and making the playoffs. So this is just like him. We'll see how it turns out. I could see it working for him.
Yeah.
Matt A has been really good. Julio Jones has not been as good lately. And then between Martavis Bryant, Danny Woodhead, and Emmanuel Sanders, I think that can make up for those guys. And if Sharkhandrick West actually plays like a starting running back, that's just gravy. So that is the big trade for this week. Morgan tried to trade you Julian Edelman for
that was a good trade.
Mike and I. That got vetoed. I mean, you don't tell the commissioner you're only doing a trade to help somebody out. That is the very definition of collusion. It's against the rules. It's always been against the rules. So just don't do that, because then every other trade is going to get increased scrutiny. Well, this week, the aforementioned hard targets, that's Finch, at 4-2, is going up against Cobb. These two just traded. Like I said, they traded Alshon Jeffrey and Peyton Manning. They face each other the very next week, and both of those guys have a bye. So this, it's not going to affect their matchup at all. But there's a reason that Finch is 4-2 and Cobb is 2-4. Looking at the lineups, I like Finch to win this one. I don't see a scenario where the Dogs of War pull it out. What do you say?
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, you got Alfred Morris at running back, who, I mean, is that guy even still on the field? Beast mode has been very not beast mode. Week 1 was his best week at 17 points. Definitely not what those two are capable of. The receiving core, I'm not too crazy about. Unless, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is if Russell Wilson has an outstanding game with Marshawn Lynch. Other than that, I don't see it. I mean, on the other side, you got hard targets, and you got some pretty stout guys. John Brown has come on these last few weeks with 15, 17, and then 27 points last week. T.Y. Hilton has been pretty steady as a wide receiver, I would say. I mean, I would be happy with a wide receiver that's pretty steady at 13 points, 13 and a half points. He got 19 last week. Adrian Peterson seems to I thought he was finding his stride before his bye week. But I definitely like Hard Target's team a whole lot better. Brian Hoyer has definitely come on since week 4 to be a definitely good starter that you could be confident with.
Yeah, who saw that coming?
Yeah, right?
So next we've got, we'll save the hangovers just in case Duffy is able to get on the podcast. And instead we'll go to Pile, that's Lucky Enough versus Domination Station. We just talked about Jessen's domination station having some pretty bad luck in the sense that they scored 144 points. I think that was their most points scored, at least had been in about 4 weeks. But yet they still lost because they went up against the Narcs, who just had a really great week. So Pyle, who right now is my favorite to win the NFC, who's he got on bye? He's got Andy Dalton, Gio Bernard, Matt Forte on a bye, and yet he's still projected for 162 points.
And Tony Romo injured.
Yeah, so this is by far the best and deepest roster. Like I said, he's my favorite to win it all, and that starts this week. Even with a trade that Jessen is trying to work, I don't see any moves he can make in 1 week that'll tip the scales in his favor.
Yeah, I don't either. Man, he's banged up at receiver. Got an aging Johnson, Terrence Williams, who everyone's forgotten. Vernon Davis is wow.
Yes.
Has Vernon Davis been injured?
I think he was injured for a game or two.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't play 2 games.
Okay. So
yeah,
things
are not getting any easier for Jessen.
No, they're not. Yeah, they're not. Have I played Jessen yet? I hope not.
So we're both in agreement that Pyle's going to win that one.
Yeah, Pyle might get the biggest victory again.
Yeah, I can see that happening. So next we've got last week's number 1 team, Sooner Jack, managed by Bruce, going against the Whackers, which is Lyndall Morgan. We talked about Morgan. He had some really bad luck with his draft. He's had bad luck since the draft. Like he picked CJ Spiller in the 3rd round, and I can see a lot of people making the argument for that being a smart pick in a PPR league. But it just hasn't worked out. You know, Spiller, we all want him to be the version of Spiller that flashed 1 year in Buffalo. I think it was like 7 yards per carry. But he really hasn't done much in New Orleans.
I got to say, everybody in New Orleans has not lived up to what we thought they would be.
Yeah, definitely. And that also hurt Morgan with Drew Brees.
Yeah.
So all that to say, Morgan's team is not favored to win. But, he's last place right now. He's 1-5. But looking at his team, it really doesn't look bad. He's just had really bad luck. He thought Victor Cruz would be back by now. So that was just kind of a wasted pick that we all thought was smart when it happened. Eddie Lacy has not been good. That seemed like a surefire first-round pick. Drew Brees has not been good. That seemed like a great quarterback pick. Talked about CJ Spiller. Darren Sproles has been a mainstay in the oil. Just
Brian Hartline usually is a pretty steady receiver. Well, receiver 3 or even a slot guy. He hadn't really performed at all.
Yeah, and he's somebody that's always been under the radar in the oil. Just because of our PPR format, he was always good for like 10 points a game in Miami.
Yeah.
But he's done nothing in Cleveland. And their offense has put up some points. So, you can't say it's because of that.
Yeah, he's just not getting the targets.
Yeah, and so Morgan's just had terrible luck. I hope he doesn't just give up on the season, mostly because, uh, we like people to have a little bit of pride. I may not make the playoffs, but I'm going to do my damnedest not to be last place type of deal. So he's going against Bruce, who is one of the other favorites to win the league. I wouldn't put him in the same tier as Pyle, but it's still a very good team. He's 4-2, and I think he's going to win this one.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't. Yeah, I think he's going to win this one. Going forward, I think Jackie's going to make the playoffs. I don't know. With both of us being from Norman, if he goes further than I do, then I definitely am going to root for him because that's a trophy back in Norman. But
yeah, well, regardless of who makes the Oil Bowl and the Thunder Bowl and I guess the Patriot Bowl in the PFC, I really like everybody to get together and watch games on that Week 16 weekend.
Yeah.
We'll try and make that happen regardless of who's in it. And even more so if it turns out it's you against him, you're both in Norman. I mean, that'd be great. Moving right along, let's see. Rogers is the leader in points in the league. His team has just been killing it. He's 4-2. I was pretty excited last week going up against him because Tyrod Taylor was injured and Matt Stafford. Stafford had not done anything in the 3 previous games. He'd scored 14, 10, and 9 points. So I felt pretty confident that, he'd get 10 to 15 points and I could maybe pull out a victory. And then last week he got 45 points and they just stomped the shit out of us.
He was playing the Bears, though. I mean,
well, it doesn't matter in the Oil. I mean, I don't care who he was playing in real life. He was playing me in fantasy football, and it cost me a much needed win. And Rodgers has always been kind of a thorn in my side. In 2010, when my team went 14-1, he was the only loss. And he likes to remember that. So, really great team. Certainly not ashamed to lose to that team. Right now, he's projected to win by like 50 points, and that's with having a receiver injured. So he'll have to replace Cecil Shorts. I just saw that he is ruled out this week. But he's just got a really solid team. I think it's probably the second best team behind Pyle's. And I mean, Chris Ivory, I don't remember what round he picked Chris Ivory in, but he was someone that I was targeting. I thought could be a really good like 5th or 6th round pick. And I don't know what his stats are overall, but on a per game basis, he's just been fantastic. And that's really propelled his team receiver with, I think, his first 3 picks. You go receiver with your first 3 and then get like a top 5 running back after that. I mean, you're set. Meanwhile, Schmidt's team, they did pull one out last week to get to 3-3. They have weathered some bad luck and bad trades, but they're not gonna pull this one out.
No, I don't think they're not. He's got some holes here. I mean, he's got the receiver, which
AJ Green is on a bye.
I mean, he's the only other person he can put in there is Walters. I'm sorry.
Well, he can move Roddy White up there and then put Eric Ebron or Jordan Reed in that flex spot.
Yeah. With that big of a gap, would you even go out and bother getting a defense?
Well, I certainly wouldn't drop the Denver defense. But this Brian Walters, what has he done? Well, I guess he did well last week. But Cameron Artis-Payne, we all thought he might get a lot of attempts behind Jonathan Stewart. That hasn't happened. I would drop him or Marcus Colston. I mean, he's 3-3. We expect him to fall to 3-4. That does not bode well for the playoffs, but you never know. His team might go on a run, and then at the end of the season, you really do need all the points you can get through the course of the regular season so that can serve as the tiebreaker to get you into the playoffs. So I never advocate leaving a position empty because I just value every single point I can get.
Yeah, and he's got a pretty tough schedule coming up. I mean, he's got the Ammo Dogs this week. He's got Jessen next week. He's got me the next week. He's got Sooner Jacks on the 11th week, Dark Narcs on the 12th week, and then he finishes up with his rivalry week being Lucky Enough. So he's got a tough road ahead.
Yeah, he might not win another game.
Let me look there. If there was one,
it might be Jessen.
Or Jessen, yeah. Domination Station. Who knows? Listen to me talk. He might beat me.
It could happen. Well, Duffy's not here yet, so we'll jump into his matchup. I don't think he really wants to talk about this one anyway. So the Hangovers are 1-5. It just feels weird saying that. Which, by the way, the Hangovers have, by a wide margin, the toughest strength of schedule this season so far. I mean, it's not to say that his team has been good, but it's certainly not as bad as 1-5 makes it seem. And, them's the breaks. So, for as far as his pride goes, that can help, but it's really not going to help him in the win-loss department. He's going against the Narcs, who are 4-2. They lost Jamal Charles, but they also have Devontae Freeman and Mark Ingram. So they were able to weather that injury. They've also got David Johnson, the rookie running back in Arizona. They kind of kept on trucking, and here they are at 4-2, and they're poised to get a playoff spot. Although this week they're not favored by much against the Hangovers, and it wouldn't take much for the Hangovers to pull this one out. Martavis Bryant is projected for 9 points. He could easily score 2 touchdowns on that Kansas City defense. And I'm going to, I really do think that the Hangovers will win this.
I just picked them to win this game.
Well, I hope they do, just so I don't have to hear Duffy complaining. Really, it's not good for anybody for someone to be 1-6, because it's just kind of makes it boring when you think that they're out of it so early.
Well, looking at this, I see some good matchups for the Hangovers. Matty Ice against Tennessee, Golden Tate against Minnesota. You've got, just like you said, Bryant, who can easily drop. I mean, he's a huge target in the red zone. And obviously we've seen that even a third-string quarterback in Landry Jones doesn't have a problem finding Bryant for a touchdown. And then, of course, you add with the possibility of Ben Roethlisberger coming back. I could see I could see the Hangovers pulling this one out and going to 2-5.
Yeah.
Definitely help everyone else in the playoff hunt, knocking off the Dark Narcs and adding a loss to their record.
Yeah, I'm all for them knocking off the Narcs. So, let's see, who do you face this week? Oh, you face the defending champion Hippies.
Yeah.
And you face them with Aaron Rodgers on a bye, so that helps.
Yeah, I was happy about that. Looking at the trade that him and I did, it looks like he's going to play Mike Wallace, who he got from me. He also got DGB, which he is not going to play. For some reason, I still don't understand why DGB gets projected so low of points. Because, other than week 1 and week 5, which they played Buffalo, he's had, not great, outstanding receiver points, but, he's definitely outdone all of his projections.
Well, yeah, you say except for week 1 and week 5, but that's 40% of the games he's played. 2 out of the 5 have been donuts.
But also, you also have to keep in mind he does have a rookie quarterback too.
And he's a rookie.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I could see. Obviously, they're probably going to be behind against Atlanta. They're going to have to throw the ball. Atlanta's defense isn't ranked very well against the pass. I would probably start him over somebody. I don't know.
I'd probably put him down here above McFadden.
Outside of Brandon Marshall, the Hippies have a lot of good but not great receivers. So much that you can make a case to start any of them, but not feel confident with any combination. I can make an argument for Leonard Hankerson starting, for Jermaine Kearse starting, and for Dorial Green-Beckham. Those 3 are currently on his bench, and I can't really argue with the guys that are playing. Kendall Wright, Brandon Marshall, Mike Wallace, Jamison Crowder. If ever you could accumulate points from a position group, this would be a time when I think it would be beneficial for him. Because at the end of the year, you don't get credit for having the most pretty good receivers. It just matters who you start and the points they get. Over on your side, you've got Tom Brady. Who's on bye for you?
For me, it is
Devontae Adams. Oh, and Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, Demaryius Thomas is the big one.
And you're still projected for 142 points. That speaks to your depth. I think you pull this out. I think you just got a better team overall. Whenever you can win a game with a player like Demaryius Thomas on a bye week, that's really good. That sets you up down the stretch. So, lastly, we have my Arrogant Americans. We're going up against Yancey's Roughnecks. We are the underdog. I think we've been the underdog all season. And we're dealing with some bye weeks as well. We've got Jeremy Hill and Randall Cobb on a bye. Brandon LaFell might be coming off the PUP list. If he's active, I'll play him. Nate Washington has been injured, but he should be back. My receivers right now, I've got a big name in Brandon Cooks, but he hasn't played very well at all. And then right now I'm starting Jericho Cotchery and Lance Moore. It's like 2009 all over again. Blake Bortles has done well for me. I've got Arian Foster and Doug Martin at running back and Gronkowski at tight end. If I can have like 2 or 3 guys, really blow up, I might stand a chance. But the thing that really worries me is, Yancey's got Todd Gurley going up against Cleveland, and they give up the fourth most points to the running back position. Todd Gurley has been a monster ever since he came back from that injury. 146 yards 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, 159 yards the following week, and now he goes up against one of the worst rush defenses in the league. That 19 points they project him for is probably the floor.
Yeah. And, looking at Gurley's points, one thing that sticks out to me, how come they're not giving him the ball in the red zone to score touchdowns?
I don't know. I mean, it's Jeff Fisher. He does a lot of dumb things. But if I can pull this out, I'm at 3-4. I just feel like I'm grinding every week, just trying to, dig my heels in and hang on. If I can get, I guess if I could win out, of course I make the playoffs. But if I can just get to 8 wins, I'll feel confident.
So here's one big wild card for Yancey, and it paid off in my win against him last week, and it probably definitely worked if you go back and check some other games that he's lost. His quarterback position. He's got 3 to choose from. None of them have been real consistent, so it's almost like a crapshoot every time he throws one in there.
Yeah, he's choosing between Josh McCown, Sam Bradford, and Colin Kaepernick. And all 3 of them have had great games, but it's like one great game for each one, and you don't know when it's going to happen.
Which, by the way, he starts Colin Kaepernick against me last week, and he wins.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's got James Jones and Ronnie Hillman on a bye. Of course, Dez Bryant is still injured. I mean, if there's a time to take him down, it's now. Of course, I really hope I can, but it's a testament to his depth that he's got such a shitty quarterback and those 2 guys on bye, plus Dez Bryant injured, and he's still projected for 141 points.
Yeah. And looking at his schedule, if you can take him down, he's got coming up the road Dirty Hippies week 10, Lucky Enough week 11, Ammo Dogs week 12, and Hard Targets his last week. That's a tough end of the season. So a loss in the middle of the season with me at week 6, you at 7, and then maybe Dogs of War week 8. That could be, that's a pivotal time in the schedule for the Roughnecks.
Yeah, they could very easily lose their last 3 and stumble into the playoffs. If they lose their last 3 after winning until then, they can still get in at 7-6 potentially. If they lose between now and then, it's going to be really tough on them.
Yeah.
So that is all the matchups for the NFC. I'm going to discuss these trades really quickly. So we talked about previous trade drama where the Whackers had they traded DeLille and said, oh, well, we're just trying to help our buddy out. I appreciated their honesty, but that's against the rules, written and unwritten. So here he is. Now he has agreed to a trade of Rashard Matthews going from the Whackers to the Nobodies for Robert Woods. I don't like this trade. I wouldn't do it, but you can make the argument that he needs to win right now, and Robert Woods is a starting wide receiver while Sammy Watkins and Percy Harvin are injured. Rashard Matthews, there's a renewed emphasis on the running game in Miami. Kenny Stills is getting more playing time. They're working Devontae Parker in. So you can make a plausible argument for this, and so in that case, it's going to be allowed. And there it goes. The second trade that just happened moments before the podcast started, Morgan is sending third-round bust CJ Spiller and Julian Edelman to Domination Station for surprisingly resurgent Anquan Bolden and somewhat of a bust Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck did do very well last week, 37 points. Maybe he's gotten past his early season issues. And I understand that he's tired of waiting on Luck to regain his form. I know that the Whackers are tired of dealing with Drew Brees. I understand why Morgan wants to get rid of CJ Spiller and Julian Edelman. Morgan thinks he's always an injury risk, which is fair. And he may be losing targets now that Brandon LaFell is back. So, again, this is not a trade that I would make simply because I don't value quarterback as much as some people do. But this is not a clearly a case of clear collusion, and so that one will also be allowed. And that is it for the NFC. One thing that I'm always interested in, and I know it doesn't really have any bearing, it's just something to think about, is I like to go and look at the current projections after each trade is made and see if there's any noticeable difference. And this one, there really isn't. It looks like they still project Jessen to finish 12th and Morgan to finish 13th.
We can't see anything.
Okay. Well, it says I'm presenting to everyone, but apparently not.
It was just a gray screen.
Well, I was looking at the current projections after the two trades that were just approved, and there's no real discernible effect on the projections. Of course, I give my opinion on them. Not saying they're good trades, but they're understandable. So that is it for the NFC. Is there anything you want to say before we jump on out of this one?
Yeah. If you're in the league or a fan and watching the league, these next few weeks are definitely going to be weeks to pay attention to. There's a lot of people who are on the bubble, and these next few weeks are going to be crucial. So I think it's going to be an exciting time in the NFC.
Yeah, my Americans are basically starting the playoffs right now. We need to, if not win out, we need to go 6-1 over the next 7 weeks. So it'll be a tough road to hoe.
Yeah.
That is the NFC. We'll go over to the PFC just because we've done them the last couple times. Don't want to make them feel like they don't belong, hurt any feelings. Over here, Bill Straley is on a 5-game winning streak. He's 5-1. And I mean, really, it's a lot of the same storylines as the last couple weeks. Straley's number 1 because the Nightmares got beat finally. But the number 2 team is Gray with the Great Plains Drifters. They've got over 1,000 points, and that's the most points in the league. They also have the second most difficult schedule. So they've got the second most difficult schedule, and they're 4-2. That says a lot about their squad. Gray is really enjoying this, and I'm glad he joined, and he's doing well. Looking ahead, Straley is going up against the Dirty Dogs, which are managed by Bjor. Bjor's got Eddie Lacy on a bye this week. Let's see. Now, can you look at this, Leo?
No.
Can you access the PFC?
Oh, wait, no. Duffy said that it was public.
Yeah, go to the Okaraki website.
2 seconds here. Just there. All right.
You see below the header to the right where it says links to the.
Oh, nice. All right. So, yes, I am in. Who are we looking at?
Anybody listening, if you ever want to see what's going on in the other conferences, that's how to do it. So we are looking at the Dirty Dogs playing the #1 Enforcers. And the Dirty Dogs have Eddie Lacy on a bye. And looks like they'll probably have to throw in Duke Johnson there to replace him. You can certainly do worse than that.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, the Enforcers have the Denver defense on a bye. Between the Denver defense and Steven Gostkowski, they may have the best defense kicker combo in the oil. So
yeah.
I'm sure they'll probably drop like Taylor Gabriel and get a defense. And they've also got they need to drop Reggie Wayne. I don't know why he still has Reggie Wayne.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's a definitely Bill. If you are listening, if any one of Bill's buddies is listening, if you don't know Bill, but you can look in the phone book for Bill Straley, tell him to drop Reggie Wayne, even if he doesn't pick anybody else up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he just hasn't been managing his team. Well, it almost is. He's only got one move.
Well, still, he has to check in at least once a week to set a lineup.
Yeah, obviously he's been setting his lineup. He's #1 in the league. Get rid of Reggie Wayne, pick up another defense. He's got Brandon LaFell waiting in the wings. So, I mean, that's almost unfair. The #1 team in the league is going to add Brandon LaFell to the mix next week. I think they'll win this one. I wouldn't be shocked if the Dirty Dogs pulled it out, but I'm certainly not going to be picking them in this one.
No. And the main thing that I see with the Dirty Dogs is you got a Mike Wallace receiver. You've got, a Russell Wilson quarterback, which I'm really disappointed in the way he's played. And then you've got a weakened running back core with Eddie Lacy going down. And then, of course, you have Arian Foster, which is kind of a bright spot. I mean, he's kind of come on these last few weeks. But I'm going to go with Bill picking winning this one. Even if he doesn't pick up the defense, I think he wins this one.
Yeah, that he could certainly do that. Next, we've got Team Tadlock, who started out like gangbusters at 2-0. They are now 2-4. Tadlock is going against Pennington. Those guys were both on the 2008 deployment. The FDC Chiefs, which is Pennington's crew, they're 2-1 since taking over for Hudson. Looking at the roster real quick, the numbers say that Tadlock will pull it out. I can really see it going either way. I'll pick Tadlock behind Tom Brady, and it's really the only big player for them. The rest of his roster is just solid, nothing great. But if they all perform like they have, I think they'll win.
So obviously a big downside, we've talked about it in the NFC, Drew Brees, not big on him. I had Tom Brady on my side. You can pretty much say Tom Brady's going to score 30 points or more. He's done it all year. So whenever you got him leading a team, the receiving core for Tadlock is pretty average with the exception of Allen Robinson. And he's going up against Buffalo, so he might have a hard time. This Alfred Morris in there, this might be a little closer than what the projection says. I'd say I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win this one.
All right. Next, we've got the Orange Bloods, which is McKay. They started out 0-4. They've now won 2 in a row. Unfortunately, they've got a couple byes this week. But they're going against Beller, who goes by the Extreme. And they got Randall Cobb, Emmanuel Sanders, Marvin Jones, and Richard Rodgers on a bye. So they got to replace all those guys. Yeah, the Orange Bloods, they need to put a defense in there. But I think they'll win despite having Eifert and Jeffrey on a bye. And that'll get them up to 3-4. And they're still in this.
Yeah, I think so too. The Extreme. Now, who took you said Beller took this team over?
Beller started with this team. I was saying in the last matchup, Pennington took over the Chiefs from Hudson.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Man. Yeah, the Extreme. A word of advice for the Extreme for next year is keep track of the bye week when you draft.
Well, there's 2 schools of thought on that. I don't pay attention to bye weeks when I draft just because there's enough variables already. But statistically, if you have all your buys on 1 week, then you're at full strength for all the other weeks. That might be better for you. CJ Anderson is also on a bye. I didn't mention him. Of course, he hasn't played very well anyway. So that puts 5 people right now on a bye. That's a lot. So
that's a lot. I think that's a subject that we should probably dive into some in future weeks is philosophies on bye weeks.
Yeah, so he might essentially be forfeiting this week. That puts him at 4-3, but then he's essentially at full strength the rest of the season. And he's got Devontae Freeman down there in a flex spot, so he might score 35 more points and save him. I don't know.
It's true.
The Sixers, which is Cordis, they've got their own bye situation. They've got James Jones, Eddie Royal, Matt Forte, Martellus Bennett, and Mason Crosby on a bye. So I guess
wow.
They saw Beller's 5 buys and raised them another. The Preppers have got 3-4 on a bye. Wow. Yeah. Who the hell knows who's going to win this because they've got a lot of managing to do.
And with the Preppers, you might as well put Dwayne Allen on a bye because that dude, he scores nothing.
Yeah. Just based on what I know about these guys, I'm going to pick Cordis because I think he cares more and he'll actually log in and make the necessary changes. But this is just a really bad week for both parties here.
Yeah, I agree.
The Nightmares, they were 4-0 and number 1. They were on top of the world. and then they lost Jamal Charles, and they've lost 2 in a row now. So Mitchell, now is when you got to see what type of manager he is. He's got Peyton Manning on a bye this week. That might be a good thing.
And Ben Roethlisberger still out.
He's injured.
So that's a bad thing. He's got to go out and get a quarterback.
Yeah, and they're not just, they're not a dime a dozen. In this conference, I think there's a few guys with like 3 quarterbacks, so it'll be tough to get one off the waiver wire. He's going against the team with the most points in the league in the Drifters. That is Doc Gray. I don't see him losing this one, so that will bump him up to 5-2, and Mitchell will lose his 3rd straight most likely.
Yeah, I agree. The Drifters, I think, are going to take this one down, especially whenever he needs to drop somebody and pick up another possible running back, and he can move DeMarco Murray up and then put Woods in that slot position or Witten. So,
yeah. The next matchup is a matchup of 2 oil and gas themed teams. Got the Greasy Vandals and the Boomtown Brawlers. The Vandals have been really lucky to get to 3-3. They've got a couple of buys, but not like really major losses. Unfortunately, they just don't have a lot on their bench to replace them with. I think that Breaks Brawlers win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. This is easy. Break all the way. Just Julio Jones, Carlos Hyde, Shady McCoy, Martavius Bryant. Break all the way.
Yeah. So the final matchup in the PFC is the Blue Falcons, which is Derek Baldwin going up against Sergeant Pierre's Mechanics. So little Baldwin needs to put a quarterback in. I guess that'll be Josh McCown. I'm trying to figure out why he has 3 kickers and 2 defenses on his roster. I don't understand that. One of his kickers isn't even in the league right now, so I need to shoot him an encouraging text message. He's going up against Pierre, who is 1-5. It's both of these guys. It's their first season playing fantasy football, so it definitely shows. But I think the Falcons win it. They get to 4-3. The Mechanics fall to 1-6, and hopefully they're having a good time, and then they'll do better next year.
So I wonder what this matchup looks like when you put Todd Gurley in for Matthews. You possibly pick up one of those quarterbacks from Peacock and then maybe look at
Peacock's not in this conference.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who did we just look at? The
Brawlers and the Vandals.
Yes. Yeah, pick up a quarterback from one of those guys. And then, of course, there was a wide receiver spot that was open for the Blue Falcons as well. Sammy Watkins. Derek Baldwin could definitely make a few quick changes and maybe win this game.
Yeah, I think he will. So that's the PFC. We'd be glad to spend more time on it just as soon as someone in the PFC wants to come on and talk about it with us. The AFC is what we're going to close with, and that is the The league that started last year, so it's in its second season. Number one in the league is the Vultures. That's who we thought would be number one at the beginning of the season. They lost Roethlisberger to injury, but they're still flying high at 4-2 with 944 points. And right behind them is Lynn with the Brewmasters and Fitzgerald with Steel Rain. In last place are the Cox. We talked about Peacock drafting drunk.
You draft drunk or dumb?
Well, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Second to last place is the Mutinous Apes, which is Musselman, and he's actually got 873 points. That would put him in the top 6 or 7 points wise, but he's just had a really tough schedule and some bad luck. So sorry for the Apes there. Fantasy football is not fair. I'll be the first to say that. Going into the matchups, last year's champion War Pony is playing Hillier. This is a rematch of last year's Thunder Bowl. They've both got some bye week issues. I think Hillier has a strong team. War Pony, Venable, his team is not as good as it seemed like it could be at the beginning of the season, and I think Hillier gets some revenge this week.
I agree with that one. I think Hillier's definitely got – I think he's going to have definitely an edge in his receiving core. Although I'm not too high on Brandon Cooks, but the other two I'm definitely fans of.
Yeah. So we talked about Lynn being in second place with the Brewmasters. He's going against Schuster with negligent discharges, and Schuster's got Gio Bernard, Jeremy Hill, and Aaron Rodgers and Marcus Colston on a bye. He doesn't have a whole lot to put in their place. And it looks to me like Lynn wins another one pretty handily. And that's even with not having LaFell back yet and having James Jones on a bye. He's also got the Denver defense on a bye. That's number one defense in fantasy right now. So look at the Brewmasters, man. They're going to be 5-2.
Yeah.
I had to twist this guy's arm to actually join the league, and now he loves it.
He's addicted. That's what happens.
Yep. We don't have to spend much time on the next matchup because it's the Cox. Aside from the fact that they have 3 or 4 buys, they're just not a threat. So Zerger essentially has a bye this week. If he can't beat the Cox, then he's not playoff material.
That would be hilarious as shit if he didn't.
Yeah. The next one is the Mutinous Apes going against Fitzgerald and Steel Rain, and this one could be an upset. The Apes are 2-4, but like we said, they've got a lot of points. They just had a bad schedule, and Fitzgerald is 4-2 and third in the league. But the Apes are projected to score 145 points. Fitzgerald's got some key guys on a bye. It doesn't look like he has a lot of great guys to fill those spots. And I think I'm calling the Apes in an upset.
I think I'm going to do the same thing. I mean, Eli Manning didn't do too great. I mean, he didn't do good at all last week. But he is going against the Dallas Cowboys, which is a rivalry. I like Adrian Peterson, Carlos Hyde. when you look at his receivers, John Brown has come on. Fitzgerald, it's pretty steady, even though he's getting up there in age. Yeah, I'm going to say the Apes win this one.
Yeah, that's what it seems like will happen to me. Let me post this link real quick. I apparently didn't post the link to the show earlier, even though I thought I had. So.
Because, I mean, there's looking at the people. So obviously Cobb can be replaced by Landry in the receiver core. Your running backs, though, you're looking at putting in Isaiah Crowell, who's not bad, but, I mean, could you do better? Probably so.
Yeah, just a bad week for Fitzgerald. I don't think it says a lot about his team. Devontae Freeman might make up for whatever he's losing at that second running back position.
That's true. So this year, whenever you've got Devontae Freeman, I mean, that's like that's 2 for 1 every week. 2 for 1.
Yeah, Fitzgerald picked C.J. Anderson in the first round, and the only reason he's not, languishing like Jessen is because he also picked Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, Freeman 2 for 1, especially in the running back group.
Yeah. The next matchup looks like both teams are not dealing with a lot of buys. They are at or close to full strength, and that's the Doughboys going against the Warm Bodies. The Doughboys, man, they're really setting themselves up for a run. They're 4-2 right now. They're in 4th place, and they're projected for 155 points in week 7, which is a prime bye week. But looking at the rest of their roster, they really don't have anybody that they have to worry about. So maybe they deal with that later. Maybe they've already had their buys, but they're going against Nye. Nye needs to find a kicker, but they're not projected for much less when you throw in a kicker. And I'm going to pick the Doughboys just because I trust Green more. I think that, whatever adjustments need to be made, he'll make. But, Nye's got kind of a sneaky good team sitting there at 3-3.
Yeah, I like Nye's team because Nye's team is real easy to just kind of like, especially for a first-timer or a novice, to kind of just trip into wins. Looking at the Brewmasters schedule, though, weeks 7 through 10 are definitely the weeks that you want to go on a run. Because after that, you've got Steel Rain coming up, Sawtooth, and then Hilliard.
Yeah, that's tough to close the season. So, man, I'm going to pick the Doughboys, but
I think the Doughboys win this one.
It wouldn't surprise me if the Warm Bodies pulled it out. So the number 1 Vultures are playing Neely's Hooligans. And, you got to give it up to Neely because he had a horrible draft. It's his fault.
Women ruin everything, Charlie.
So, I'm not going to say anything about that, but, he picked some guys that, don't have ACLs functioning right now. But he's recovered. He showed a willingness to be a hawk on the waiver wire. He's managed his team well. He's now at 3-3. Certainly not a world beater, but a lot better than what we thought would happen after that start to the season. Some of that has to do with drafting Tom Brady. and getting Chris Johnson very, very, very late. But I mean, he's also picked up a guy like Zach Stacy, who, due to injury, is getting a lot of playing time right now, and that's just a testament to him, paying attention and making the moves when he has to make them. But he is going against the number 1 team in the league. That is Brosh. And Brosh has got Matt Forte on a bye, Mason Crosby, still got Roethlisberger injured. So Brosh is not at full strength, but they're by no means I don't think that they're in a position where you feel confident you can take them down. They are projected to win right now by about 10. I wouldn't be surprised if that margin was bigger, and that's nothing. That says nothing about the hooligans. It's just the types of players that Brosh has. They tend to overperform quite a bit.
Yeah, they do.
It's down to probably Brosh and Lynn in this one.
Yeah. Vultures are gonna take this one. But yeah, this league is. I like this. I wish I had co-manager status in one of these for the Cox. Give me co-manager for the Cox.
Well, we have co-manager status so that we can go in there and do commissioner notes and things like that. Make sure that we don't actually manage teams, so to speak, but the Cox could definitely use some help.
He's busy, he's a small business owner.
Yeah. I mean, guys, I don't think he ever's ever in front of a computer. It's all on his phone. He's always on the go. He runs a company, and I guess, and kudos to him. He never gets like super angry and pissed, and he has fun. He doesn't take it too seriously when he loses.
That's the good thing about Peacock, and one thing that I've always loved about him, and he is super easygoing. I mean, unless you really piss him off, it's kind of hard to get Peacock mad. I mean, I've known him since junior high, and I can't really remember a time where he was actually like fighting mad, like I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Let's go outside type of mad.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing because I think anybody else in his position would be pretty pissed at their team. I mean, he's not threatening to quit the league or anything like some people. Well, the final matchup is the Sawtooths, which is Nick Reed, going up against the Rebel Alliance, which is Roe. And Roe has won 3 straight. We all liked his draft. We thought he prepared well. He was really taking it seriously. And then he lost his first 3 games. Really just ran into a buzzsaw, had 3 really tough games to start the year. Also had some injuries. His quarterbacks didn't work out. He picked up Blake Bortles, made a couple moves, including a trade, and he's won 3 in a row. Now he's in a position where he can maybe win 4 in a row going up against the Sawtooths. So good job to him. He's right in 6th place. He may still make the playoffs after an 0-3 start. If Nate Washington plays, I can see him winning this one. He's got some good players on the bench because of buys. So unfortunately, he's not at full strength for this game that could actually get him over the hump at 500. But he's positioned himself well.
Yeah, looking at this, he really has. I mean, so I'm guessing he drafted Jameis Winston as his number 1 quarterback.
he drafted Winston and Teddy Bridgewater late, thinking one of the two would break out.
So looking at this, I'm only guessing that he's keeping a hold of Winston to cover Blake Bortles bye week in 2 weeks, I believe. And then hopefully he can just drop him and pick somebody else up, because that's a great – I mean, I had Blake Bortles. The only reason I had him was because I knew Tom Brady had an early bye week. But looking back at it, I tried to use Bortles as trade bait. No one wanted to trade for him, so I just dropped him. But he is, like I've said, steady. I mean, it's surprising. So I like Rebel Alliance, especially in this game. I think they beat Sawtooths.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick them to win. You know, there's some guys over on the Sawtooths roster that I can see underperforming. There's a lot of hype about Christian Michael. I can see him being a dud. Jimmy Graham hasn't really done much. Kamar Aiken, who's to say he'll actually put up 10 points against a very good Arizona secondary. And I think Nate Washington will play for Houston while Cecil Shorts is injured. So I'm going to pick the Rebels here, and I don't really think it'd be too much of an upset if they win.
No, I don't think so either.
So that does it for the AFC. Looks like coming out of this, we both project much change at the top, but there can be a lot of shifting in the middle. And like you said, these mid-season weeks, you know, these are really crucial. You know, right now, you know, the first through third playoff spots are getting pretty clear, but everything after that, you know, nobody knows. Every year somebody makes a late season run, and it's really my favorite part of the year.
Yeah, this middle time in every league is really critical. I mean, you could, depending on what trades you make, dropping people, adding people, what action you have on the waiver wire, and then, of course, just setting and managing your lineups through these next 3-4 weeks could really determine on how strong you go in to the playoffs.
Yeah, and, you know, not that people need reminding, I don't think, but, you know, even if you do feel like you're out of it, you always need to manage your roster and do as best as you can. That's how we determine draft position. If you win the league, you get first choice of draft position. If you're second, you get the second choice, so on and so forth. And so once it gets to, you know, the seventh person, that's the first person that did not make the playoffs. They at least get to choose from one of 7 draft positions, whichever one they feel is best for them. And, you know, it's not gonna make your season, but it's really good to draft where you're comfortable. If you finish in last place, you get whatever's left over. You have no choice in the matter. You're a failure. You know,
yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're ashamed. You deal with that for a whole year. So just
get stuck drafting 9th.
Yeah, in 2011, I had a really horrible year. I ended up finishing 5-8, and with the way that it went down, I could have very easily, you know, went down with the ship pretty early, knowing I wasn't going to make the playoffs, but I just had too much pride to give up, and I ended up doing well enough to at least get a draft position that I wanted, that I was comfortable with, and then I won the league the following season. So there's a little motivational tale for you.
I got to tell you, though, Brick, I got a feeling this is the year of the nobodies.
Well, you know, as the commissioner, taking self-interest out of it, obviously I want to win personally, but when it's not me, just as a commissioner, I like seeing teams that have been a part of it for a long time, and B, have not won before, win the championship. You've been a part of this since the very first season. You had your heart broken in 2007 when you lost the Oil Bowl to your rival Morgan. So I'd be happy to see you win it if it wasn't me. There's still a lot of football left to play, but I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, there is. I think maybe, I don't know, 1 week we should really do some, I don't know, maybe after the championship week or something, do one last episode and dive into maybe like upcoming draft strategies, strength of schedule. One thing I would like to see is, so we've been talking about this here lately, strength of schedule, and it really is like college football, how it really changes week to week, because so you look at, let's see, we go and look at my schedule, and I've got a win against Hard Targets and a win against Ammo Dogs. But come to find out, Ammo Dogs is the top scoring team in the league. I think it would be a really neat thing maybe during the off season to really dive into how we can determine strength of schedules and who has throughout history had the toughest schedules, and you know what I mean?
And if you jump on over to the record book on the website and scroll all the way to the bottom, it's a work in progress right now. It's not exactly what you're talking about, but I've been working on putting together the all-time head-to-head records for managers. So as you can see, I haven't gotten to you yet. I'm just kind of going down alphabetically. But if you look to the left, you find whatever manager. So
hold on. Where's this at?
Okay, are you in the record book?
No, I'm just at the
okay, go to
home.
Okaraki.org.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, the top right link on the
record book, and then
scroll to the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've got a table there. So like Duffy.
I nominate you.
No.
No, the 7-3.
No. So you go look at your name on the left, and then go to the right, and then that's yours. So you're 3-7 against me.
Oh, okay. I see.
I should probably put like a little instruction there, but when you're looking at the records, you look at the team name, manager name on the left, and then go left to right to see their record against the managers in the vertical column or the vertical row, whatever that is.
I see. So I actually own Jackie.
Yeah, I've been doing this piecemeal here and there, and I've found some surprising records. Like Finch is 7-1 versus Duffy all time.
Yeah, this is pretty. Yeah, this is really interesting. Duffy's 8-2 against Cobb.
Yeah, I mean that's 80%. And then I am. Let's see. I only have a losing record right now to one person, and that's Morgan, but I just beat him. So I'll be 5-5 at the end of this season. This is through 2014. Like I'm 8-1 versus Schmidt. But I think a lot of people have a good record against Schmidt.
Wow, Wow. Yeah, I definitely want to see this when everything is done.
Yeah, so I'll little by little get this completed, and then I'll do one for the AFC, and then I'll update them after the season, and then do one for the PFC. I've wanted to do this for so long, but it's just such a pain in the ass that I kept putting it off. So I'm finally doing it.
Yeah, pretty cool. I like that.
All right. Well, you have a good week, man.
You too.
All right. Later.
Yo.